Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Unscripted Coding. Today we're going to be playing around with processing, which is a flexible software sketchbook. Processing has a special place in my heart because it was the way I built my first app, my first Android app. Now, it's this crummy piece of thing that, I think is just like a solid background color and change a couple colors. But processing is really cool because if you download the editor, download the IDE, it exports into APK very easily. I see also that times have changed a little bit. There is processing Android, Python as well. So there's been development in that time. But what is a flexible software sketchbook exactly? Well, if you take a look at the Open Editor button here, you'll see how this image was actually created. It is just a couple of strokes. There's one over here, that's this blue line right here. Sorry. And then this one is this line, and this is this line. So let me zoom in a little further. You can see, you set up a background, you set the size at 600 by 600, you draw the right pieces, there's a grid over here, and what you can do is actually change the color. So in some ways, it's almost like a vector, except you are actively writing code one at a time to create your image. Now, if you're creating just, say, a static image like this one, maybe there's not a lot of point. If you're comfortable with writing code and not so much visually, then fine. But I would imagine just about anyone would prefer to use Photoshop or Illustrator or even Paint to do something like this. But when you start digging down into it, you start being able to do a lot of different things. So they have examples here. I don't know what this one does, but let's see, keyboard. Okay, so you can see they are creating colors based on what key you're hitting on the keyboard. So for example, I don't know what I did. Oh, I went cat. So it's just going down the list, and if you're capitalized, it takes 2 rows. If not, you get 1 row. Very cool. So you can start creating these dynamic images. This one looks pretty cool. It's an animation. And you can just watch it draw itself out, which is really, really cool. I like this one a lot. We're going to be doing something a lot simpler. I don't have nearly enough artistic ability to build this out. But I just want to revisit and see if it is a viable way to create a cool looking animation. I did a bit of poking around first. There is processing on JavaScript. And what's really cool about it is you can just run it. You can just run it and do the editor right on screen. So I love that I don't have to install anything. I just wanted to play around with it a little bit. We're going to just see what we can do and see if we can create some art. Before I start, I'm just gonna jump out very quickly. But before we start, let's get a sense of what's happening here first. This is almost like an Arduino. What's happening is you call a setup function that sets up a couple things. You can maybe set some global variables, you create the canvas, but what's going to happen is you're going to draw you're going to call the draw function over and over and over, and every time it's going to create this, say, background. And so, for example, if I say let value equal 30, okay, what I can do is do background and value, okay, obviously, but while value, I think that's what gets here, value is less than 255, oh, no, let's not while value plus or equals 1. Okay, so what this should do is start at 30 and just keep increasing, so keep getting lighter. And what's going to happen is the draw function gets called over and over and over until it hits 255, or a shade lower than 255. And then it stops. So it's still calling the draw function over and over, but the value is not changing. It's just drawing this background over and over and over. Now, if I wanted to loop this, I would just reset the value to 30. And so this should go all the way to white, drop back to that near black, and then move up. Okay. What I should be doing also is creating supporting functions here. Support. Did I do something wrong? No. And that's where these guys, so for the keyboard function, for example, are detecting various items. So this one is a key press. I think there might be mouse clicks and other interactions where you can pull some value. So for example, this key press, they get a key index somehow and create a color out of it. Okay, so I'll stop talking and start doing something. I thought I'd stop here just to give you a sense of what I'm doing and show you things that things don't always work the way they should. So first of all, we set up a canvas. Instead of fixing it at, say, 600 by 600 pixels, we're now doing it by window width and window height. I always love this whole it changes color as you move thing. It might be a bit trippy, but I like it. If you move up and down here, just horizontally, you are doing a pretty narrow set of colors, and horizontally, you're changing something else as well. So being able to move around, you get all sorts of colors. So how we did that was we had these variables, background, R, G, and B, red, green, and blue. Is that right? Yeah, red, green, and blue, your primary colors. And we're changing the background color. Every time the mouse moves, you have this really cool feature where it picks up the X and Y coordinates of the mouse. And our blue is just what we were doing before. Every time you move, it just grades lighter for blue. And so you get this effect. You move around, even if you move the same places over and over, the color is going to change by virtue of this function alone. This loop right here. So that's nice and simple. You have these supporting features that pick up events like mouse move or mouse click. You're drawing, all I'm drawing here is a background. And you get to define the variables. Very, very simple. What I'm trying to do is to get objects to show when you click. And you can see it flash in the corner. Maybe not very well because I'm not picking up enough frames, but it's showing for a split second. And the idea is it draws, say, ellipse for a split second, and then it doesn't have to draw it the next time. What I thought, well, for one, I didn't think that was the case. I didn't connect the two. When you draw an ellipse, it only shows for, that one, the click. What we need to do is somehow save the ellipse, or rectangle, or triangle, or circle, and keep drawing it every single time. My first idea was let's throw it into a list, but of course this is a function, it's not an actual object. So you can't just push it into this list and somehow go through the list. What I'm realizing now is the best way is we were doing this dynamically, or we were going to. We're going to pick up these options, these variables, and we were going to dynamically make this this object. So I might as well just keep those same variables and move it along. So so instead of saving the function, which you can't, I'm going to save the variables I'm entering, and then I'm going to do a for loop to make sure that we're drawing it. So for object in objects, print object. This is not I think this is just plain JavaScript, so yeah, you gotta do that. Knowing way to do it. So I less than close loop here. Let's see. Okay, that seems to work. All right, I will stop talking again. Okay, so we have our completed project. This looks more complicated than it has to, just really bad naming. But let me show you what we're doing first. Of course, I just explained how the color changes, but every time you click, you get a random shape. And over time, it keeps drawing the same shape. So every time it calls this draw function, it'll just keep coming back to these shapes. And we can have hundreds and hundreds of these figures, and it's not all that demanding to do. So let's get a few more. And then we have it. Okay, there is my beautiful work of art. What I want to show you quickly is, of course, not every shape has to be this white color. There is a fill function, so you can fill the color. Say this one's very yellow, this one's very purple, and you can choose that color. If I really wanted to make this difficult to look at, I might change the background of these colors to also morph, but in a different way. That just sounds brutal. Similarly, I might have done that for each different object, that they all kind of change colors in a different way. That is just going to be painful to look at. You can set the stroke as well, so the border, set the color with stroke, and stroke weight will tell you how thick it is. So there's a lot of these options that you can do, and you can also tell we barely scratch the surface of all of these reference materials. You can put in text, images, all sorts of things in there. What did surprise me, what I wasn't really aware of, is that there are 3D shapes. You can, and where did it go? That's cylinder. You can put 3D shapes in here. So that is really cool to me. I didn't know that was a function of processing, but there seems to be 3D shapes, 3D planes, and some sort of camera as well. But let's walk through what we actually did. I already talked about the draw function. I didn't want this massive thing to be in the draw function, so instead, every time we call something called loop object, that's what's new from that last step. And what we did was, as I said, we stored our variables in the objects as array. So there's an array inside an array, and every time you call draw, 100 times a second, we're going to loop through this entire array of arrays to draw the object in the right place. And from here, we take a look at so each array will have an X coordinate, a Y coordinate, and a type. And in this case, we loop through that list, that array, depending on which spawn type or which shape we choose. We use a case switch loop, and we create an ellipse or rectangle or triangle or circle. And objects I0 is the X coordinate, objects I1 is the Y coordinate, and of course I just shifted the middle point and fixed the size of these objects. If I were to change it every time, some sort of random choice, I'd have to save in this mouse clicked function as, random number between 100 and 200 or something, and that way I can consistently generate it. If I were to randomize it here, for example, then this square would not be fixed. It would move smaller and bigger, and it'll make it look very weird. But there you have it. Sometimes it's just a lot of fun to play around and see what's out there. This is not gonna be something I use, I don't think. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. It just seems difficult to use. I may have fond memories of it, but this did not come intuitively to me. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think it's a lot of fun to play around with these. This one in particular, I just don't see it. I just don't see myself using it very effectively. But this is actually pretty nice. Let's see what I can do as a screenshot here. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. I did want to try a couple more of these draw with JavaScript or draw with code type of things. What I want to do in a later video is actually do some of those interactive statistics or animations where we go through some sort of interesting statistic and do a whole animation with it. So I wanted to try a couple different methods of creating images with code. This one is one possibility. It's not terrible, but I don't think I'd be able to do a whole lot with it. And then once we try a couple ones and find one that I like, we'll do something more advanced. So take your Excel spreadsheet or some sort of data and try and draw some fun interactive movie with it. Anyways, thanks for watching. I will see you guys next week.